Saakashvili-era Georgian foreign policy and consequences. Saakashvili supported Georgia's integration with the West and its membership in NATO and the EU. Abkhazia, South Ossetia, and Azerbaijan's problems and their implications on Georgia's relations with other countries dominated Georgian foreign policy. In the NATO Bucharest summit in April 2008, Georgia was not accepted in the Membership Action Plan. Georgia's territorial integrity problem presented as an obstacle for Georgia's integration with NATO since Germany and France opposed NATO to give such commitment to Georgia. In contrast, these problems had not been solved. This gave Russia a signal that the US and the EU would not give Georgia military support in the case of the conflict despite the diplomatically supported Georgia. As a result, the Russian-Georgian conflict happened in August 2008. Russia recognized the independence of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. It might be argued that the Russian intervention of Georgia changed the parameters of the Caucasus, although Russia could not overthrow Saakashvili. Saakashvili's party United National Movement was defeated in the 2012 parliamentary elections by Georgian Dream and a coalition formed by Ivanishvili, who became prime minister on October 25, 2012. Saakashvili left Georgia. The reasons to prevent the normalization of Armenia-Turkey relations. Armenia's relations with Turkey have been problematic since its independence. Even though Turkey recognized Armenia's independence after the disintegration of the Soviet Union, normal diplomatic relations could not be established. The reasons are that Armenian policy of working for the international recognition of genocide allegations, which is considered one of the objectives of Armenia's foreign policy, Armenia's refrained from openly recognizing the territorial integrity of Turkey and the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict and continuing occupation of the territory of Azerbaijan. Armenian Declaration of Independence, which has also been referred to in the Armenian constitution, creates major problems. Armenian leaders' statements about Turkey were also problematic for bilateral relations. For example, when a student asked Armenian President Sargsyan whether Armenia could regain Western Armenia, he said that Armenia's present generation has successfully resolved the matter of Karabakh, a part of our homeland, and the next generation now growing up has its responsibility to fulfill with honor. This indicated Armenian territorial claims and its ambiguity about the Turkish-Armenian border. Pashinyan's era Armenian foreign policy and consequences. Pashinyan was elected as Prime Minister on May 8, 2018. While he came to power, he was supposed to make radical changes in Armenia since Pashinyan challenged the Karabakh clan in Armenian politics. However, Pashinyan's foreign policy has not been so different from his predecessor. Pashinyan was against the Armenian government's decision to join the EU and accused Russia of undermining Armenia's national security. However, he gave up the idea of Armenia's withdrawal from the EU and the CSTO when he came to power. Pashinyan even argued that Armenia's relations with Russia would become even more special during his rule. Pashinyan stated that there will be no U-turns in Armenia's foreign policy. But this doesn't mean that nothing has changed in Armenia's foreign policy. In fact, a lot has changed in Armenia's foreign policy. However, his statements about the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict and Armenian ceasefire violations and Armenian attacks to Azerbaijan's towns and killing civilians indicated that Pashinyan's stand no different than Kocharyan's and Sargsyan's. Pashinyan even made a statement during his visit to Nagorno-Karabakh in August 2019 that he called for the reunification of Armenia with Karabakh. This statement represented an even much more radical approach than Kocharyan towards the future status of Nagorno-Karabakh, and it might be argued that Pashinyan might close the door for peaceful settlement of the conflict, and leaving Azerbaijan the military means is the only option to liberate the territories that were under the Armenian occupation. Indeed, Azerbaijan's successful military operation to end the Armenian occupation and finally the deal that Armenia accepted on November 10, 2020 put Pashinyan in a very difficult situation in domestic politics. The factors which prevented the development of Azerbaijan-US relations. Besides the negative impact of the Armenian lobby in the US, the organizational problems in the US policy making towards the Caucasus, especially in the first 5 years of the independence of the Caucasus republics, restricted development in Azerbaijan's relations. The U.S. Agency for International Development and the State Department held responsible for supporting activities, especially for democratic development in the new republics. However, there was a lack of coordination and strong direction among departments. The Armenian lobby's impact was more damaging for the U.S. interest. The Congress even refused to contribute to the Baku-Tbilisi-Kars Railway's financing, a transportation link of the East-West corridor. The regional powers and the US's policies towards the Caucasus republics. Azerbaijan's relations with the U.S. focused on safe transportation and extraction of energy resources in the 1990s. The U.S. supported the East-West energy corridor. Therefore, the US's aim of enabling the free flow of Caspian energy resources to the international markets and Azerbaijan's rich oil and natural gas resources made Azerbaijan a crucial country in the Caucasus. However, the U.S. Congress passed the Freedom Support Act Section 907 prohibited the U.S. government from providing aid to Azerbaijan. Congress's decision misled the situation in Nagorno-Karabakh. This has put obstacles to the development of Azerbaijan's relations, despite the U.S. administration's effort to whittle down and suspend the Freedom Support Act Section 907. As one of the co-chairmen of the OSCE Minsk Group, the US supported OSCE initiatives for the settlement of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. The regional powers and the US's policies towards the Caucasus republics. Armenia's relations with the US should be analyzed with the Armenian diaspora's unique role and influence. The two major lobbying organizations in the US are the Armenian Assembly of America, AAA, and the Armenian National Committee of America, ANCA. These organizations have increased their influence in specific periods by using the advantages of operating in the U.S. system for many years. Although there are some differences between the lobby organizations, they agree on the U.S. policy's basic parameters towards Armenia. The US's ability to break the influence of lobbies in the decision-making process in foreign policy will also increase its effectiveness in the Caucasus. Regarding Armenia's relations with the U.S., there were high expectations with the rule of Pashinyan since he came to power after the political struggle against the Karabakh clan. Their members are being known for their strong ties with Moscow. The U.S. administration's expectations that the new Armenian administration would change Armenia's foreign policy have not been realized. The regional powers and the US's policies towards the Caucasus republics. Among the Caucasus republics, which gained their independence after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Georgia has come to the fore as a transit country of Caspian energy resources for the U.S. foreign policy. Georgia's relations with the U.S. have been further developed, especially after the September 11 terrorist attacks. Georgia permitted its airspace to be used for military operations in Afghanistan. The U.S. military personnel also had permission to enter Georgia without a visa with the cooperation agreement. Georgia-US relations reached a different dimension with the Saakashvili administration's arrival after the Rose Revolution in Georgia. The U.S. took initiatives in 2008 to prevent the increasing tension in relations between Georgia and Russia, turning towards the conflict in Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Although the US supported Georgia, in many platforms and relations developed rapidly between the two countries, it became evident that there are limitations for the U.S. support of Georgia. The U.S. would be reluctant to have a military commitment to Georgia. Differences and similarities of the priorities and strategies of the Caucasus republics. The Nagorno-Karabakh problem is the most devastating consequence of the conflicts in the Caucasus. While Armenia was occupying the territories of Azerbaijan, it did not feel secure. It asked for the Russian security guarantee because Azerbaijan could liberate its occupied territories by using military means. As a result, Armenia has become a country where Russia can have military bases there without facing many objections. This process led to the isolation of Armenia, which is the biggest obstacle to consolidate its independence. Georgia has struggled to protect its territorial integrity since it gained its independence. The problems of Abkhazia and South Ossetia led to the Russian invasion of Georgia in August 2008, which also indicated the fact that so-called frozen conflicts have the potential to become a full-scale war. Azerbaijan's rich energy resources impacted the entire Caucasus view, since the pipelines needed to transport Azerbaijan's resources to the international markets. Therefore, despite not having rich energy resources, Georgia and Armenia also became a part of the energy competition. The energy pipelines to carry Azerbaijan's resources did not pass through Armenia due to Armenia's foreign policy and the continuing occupation of Azerbaijan's territories. On the other hand, Georgia benefited from international projects as a transit country for Caspian resources. Each Caucasus republic has different foreign policy priorities, and each of them conducted relations with other regional and non-regional actors accordingly. The Nagorno-Karabakh problem has been a significant issue for Azerbaijan's foreign policy. Energy is also an essential element in Azerbaijan's foreign policy. Azerbaijan made great efforts to utilize its energy resources. As a landlocked country, Azerbaijan needed pipelines to transport its energy resources to the international markets. Azerbaijan followed multilateral policy and attracted many countries' attention, especially those interested in oil and gas resources. However, Azerbaijan established special ties with Turkey and described relations as one nation, two states. Armenia, also a landlocked country but without natural resources, needed to establish stable relations with its neighbors. However, the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict and Armenia's irredentist policy harmed Armenia's relations with its neighbors, and Armenia's border with the two of its neighbors has been closed as a result. This makes Armenia overly dependent on Russia. Unlike Azerbaijan and Georgia, Armenia became a member of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, CSTO, and Eurasian Economic Union, EEU. Georgia has faced threats to its territorial integrity since its independence. After the Rose Revolution in 2003, Georgia followed a Western-oriented policy establishing close ties with the USA. Georgia wanted integration into Western institutions, including NATO. Russian troops entered Georgia in August 2008, and afterward, Russia recognized the independence of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Georgia faced difficulty in conducting its foreign policy and has an unstable internal political environment. Georgia could not make an economic leap forward. The population structure of Georgia and the bordering problematic territories with Russia contributed to this picture. Despite these issues, Georgia became a transit country to transport Azerbaijan resources to the international markets. Foreign policy of Azerbaijan. Nagorno-Karabakh conflict and Armenian occupation of Azerbaijan's territories are the priority of Azerbaijan's foreign policy. The conflict impacted Azerbaijan's relations with its neighbors and other states with interests in the Caucasus. Besides the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, extraction and transportation of Azerbaijan's energy resources became the central issue in Azerbaijan's foreign policy. Foreign policy of Armenia. Armenia has been differentiated from Azerbaijan and Georgia with its special relations with Russia and Armenia's membership of all Russia-led organizations. The impact of the Armenian diaspora is also another factor in evaluating the Armenian foreign policy. Armenia's border has been closed with the two of its neighbors due to Armenia's foreign policy. Armenian occupation of Azerbaijan's territories caused a security dilemma in Armenia, making Armenia even more dependent on Russia. Foreign policy of Georgia. Georgia tried to follow a policy aimed to integrate with the West. Georgia's struggle to protect its territorial integrity faced a challenge from Russia, which objected to the Georgian policy of integration with the West and its aim of becoming a NATO member. As a result, Russia intervened in Georgia in August 2008. Despite the turbulence that Georgia faced in regional policy, Georgia became a transit country for Azerbaijan's energy resources, and the railway line from Azerbaijan to Turkey also passed through Georgia. This also indicated special ties between Georgia and Azerbaijan, which has also been seen in regional affairs. The main interests of Azerbaijan's foreign policy: extraction and transportation of Caspian energy resources, the Nagorno-Karabakh problem and occupation of Azerbaijan's territories, the Turkic Council, the Economic Cooperation Organization. Georgia is the transit country that Azerbaijan's energy resources to be transported. One nation, two states is used to describe Azerbaijan-Turkey relations. Levanter Petrosyan is the first president of Armenia. Occupation of Kelbajar caused Turkey to close its border with Armenia. Haydar Aliyev and Robert Kukarian were the presidents of Azerbaijan and Armenia during the Key West talks in 2001. Russia-Georgia conflict in August 2008 alarmed the Armenian administration about the danger of isolation. Russia has very problematic relations with Georgia. Georgia wanted to be a member of North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Georgia connected with energy and transportation lines of Azerbaijan and Turkey. Each Caucasus republic has different foreign policy priorities, and each of them conducted relations with other regional and non-regional actors accordingly. The Nagorno-Karabakh conflict is a major issue in Azerbaijan's foreign policy. More than 1 million people had been internally displaced, and 20% of Azerbaijan territory had been occupied, and more than 25,000 lives lost due to the conflict. Several UN Security Council resolutions are calling for the withdrawal of the occupying forces. UN Security Council Resolution 822, passed on April 30, 1993, Resolution 853 passed on July 29, 1993, Resolution 874 passed on October 14, 1993 and 884 passed on November 11, 1993. Although Azerbaijan is not a member of the Eurasian Economic Union, Azerbaijan's relations with Kazakhstan and both states' positions within the Turkic Council would benefit Azerbaijan against Armenian aggression. The U.S. Congress passed the Freedom Support Act. Section 907 prohibited the U.S. government from providing aid to Azerbaijan. The Congress decision totally misled the situation in Nagorno-Karabakh, which puts an obstacle to the development of Azerbaijan-US relations. The Iranian actions to help Armenia caused demonstrations in places that were mainly populated by Azerbaijani Turks, as did happen during Azerbaijan's military operations to end the occupation started on September 27, 2020. As Liberidian commented that some circles in Armenia thought that the alliance with Russia would provide the solution to Armenia's problems in many issues, including the Karabakh problem, this situation harms the consolidation of independence. It also became clear that the opening of Armenia's border with Turkey depended on the settlement of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Although the US supported Georgia, in many platforms and relations developed rapidly between the two countries, it became evident that there are limitations for the US support of Georgia. Georgia became important for Turkey's regional policy since Azerbaijan's energy resources reached Turkey through Georgia. Azerbaijan managed to establish constructive relations with many countries in the world. Azerbaijan's relations with Turkey are described as one nation two states became an exceptional one, which might be identified beyond any definition of strategic partnership. Armenian occupation of Azerbaijan's territories caused a security dilemma in Armenia, making Armenia even more dependent on Russia. Armenia had to compromise its independence as a result. Turkey used all diplomatic means to stop the occupation of Azerbaijan territories, and Turkey even closed its land border with Armenia due to the continuing aggression.